All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to bring you a Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner update. So the US markets were closed today, but the rest of the world was trading. So we'll take a look at the Bitcoin miners on the Canadian exchange. And then I want to go to Bitcoin. I want to look at the charts because we are once again at a very interesting spot. So I want to dig into it a little bit. I'll try and keep this one brief, but I definitely want to get an update here today because we're at a very important point. So we cover Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody would please smash the like button, it helps the channel out a lot. I would appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin, and I'm going to start by going to what I usually call the big board, but today it's my little board because the US stock markets were closed. I'm just going to look at the 4 Bitcoin miners that traded on the Canadian exchange. Bitfarms was up 3.57%, HUT was up 5.77%, Hive was up 1.83%, DigiHost was up 5.63%. DigiHost was actually up much more than that all day. It pulled back at the end of the day, but all 4 were very green. Now, the last time that the market was open in Canada and closed in the US, all of these miners rallied big time, and then the next day there was a huge pullback. So don't know that one thing has anything to do with the other, but that's what happened just a month ago. Okay, so let's go take a look at Bitcoin, because as we know, it broke through a critical line of support, my last line of support. But our massive line of support, we had 2 lines of support, one at 28,800. That one we took out. That one lasted 18 months. We tested it many times successfully. Ultimately, it failed. Once it failed, we went pretty much straight down and tested our 4.5-year line of support, which was, I have a line at 20,000, but it's actually a little bit less than that, which was the previous peak of the last bull cycle 4.5 years ago. So I'm just rounding it to 20 because also I think that's a psychological number that we need to see if we're above or below, but that is roughly the high of the previous Bitcoin bull cycle. So you can see, as always, we have an orange line, and this is where we closed on the previous day of trading. So that was on Friday. So Friday, when the markets closed, when the equity markets closed, Bitcoin was trading at 20,493. So we were yet to break this line of support at 20,000. However, shortly after we closed, we did have this giant, and I'm on the 30-minute time frame right now. So we had one 30-minute candle that took us all the way below the $20,000 line, and once we broke below that, we actually got all the way down to about 17,500. So that was about 2,500 points below our line of support, and you can see we got there rather quickly. We bounced up and down. It looked like this line was turning into resistance. We bounced off of 20,000 a couple of times right here. However, we did within the day cross back above it, and now we've been fighting. We've been struggling. We had a period of time above it, a period of time at or below it, and then we were nicely above it for a while. We did get, you'll see I made a purple line here. We got all the way up to 21,041 in the middle of the day today, and we are currently sitting in this green candle at 20,165. So we're currently back above the $20,000 line, and you're gonna see that's a crucial point. So we got to see how the next couple of days play out, and I'm gonna look at a few indicators to just show you whether or not what's gonna happen if we go one way and what's gonna happen if we go the other way. This is the same chart, Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame. I just want to show you how quickly we got from this line at 28.8, which had held for so long, and we tested so many times. This was just June 11th. So you can see from there to June 18th, we went from our 28.8 line to underneath our $20,000 line. So that was a rapid move downward. And that was a 40% pullback in basically 1 week. So that's a huge drop off for Bitcoin. Now we have rallied back off of that point, but we still need to wait and see where we go from here. So on the 4-hour time frame, it becomes even more obvious. You can see since this candle, we headed back up above the $20,000 line, and pretty much every single candle has been just about at the $20,000 line. There was this one candle in the middle of the day that was well above that line. The next one went right down to it, and the one we're in right now is obviously right next to it. We're at 20,135. Okay, so here's the Bitcoin 1-day chart. So again, it becomes very obvious. Now the thing here that happened that's surprising me a little bit, this is the 200-day moving average. So you can see we were holding that line and we broke below that and stopped. For 2 days, we did get some support here at 20,000, and then we broke below that. So typically when we do that, I was expecting more downward pressure. However, the very next day, we closed this candle above this line of support. So, I'm looking today, tomorrow, and the next day to see what happens, because if all we did was close one candle below and go right back back above it the next day, then I don't consider that really a confirmed broken line of support. Yes, we did break this line of support. As of yet, it does not seem to have changed our momentum. So you can see we're still well below the 200-day moving average, but we are above this line of support. And again, we only had one day, one candle that closed below this line of support. So this looked like it was broken. It looked like we were going to spiral downward in a big way. There was massive fear. I'm going to take a time out and just show you how much fear there was. This was as of yesterday. So today it's back up to 9, but I saved yesterday's. So the last 2 days in a row, the fear and greed index was down to 6. 2 days before that, it was at 7. So we've gone 7, 7, 6, 6. That's 4 days of extreme fear like the fear and greed index has never seen before. Now, the fear and greed index is only about 4.5 years old in the crypto world, but that means, you know, since the last 4.5 years, we have never had 4 days like this. Those are the worst 4 days in the history of this index. So that is truly extreme fear. So I want to look at Bitcoin on the 1 month time frame because this is where I can show you some of the lines of support that I think we're looking at right now. Okay, so this yellow line right here is the 200-week moving average. So previous to this point in time, we had only ever gone below that 2 times in the history of Bitcoin. We did touch it a 3rd time, which you can see right here. This was at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. But however, we did not candle wick below it in that instance. The other 2 times, one of which is right here, although this does not look like a significant move, that's actually a 30% move to the downside. And the previous time, the only other time we had broken below this, we also had a 30% move to the downside. So now, this is now the 3rd time in the history of Bitcoin we've gone below 200-week moving average. So one of my lines of support naturally would be 30% below this line. That is this purple line right here, which is at about 15,500 to 15,600. Somewhere in that range would be about a 30% pullback off of our 200-week moving average. So if this line at 20,000 does not hold, and it looked like it had already broken, but you can see here, even on this monthly candle, this candle has wicked below the line, but it is still above the line. So we have not yet really confirmed a break below this line. We've clearly candle wicked and gone below it, but I don't know that we've confirmed a break below it. However, I do have a couple of points that I'm looking at that would not surprise me at all. The other number I have on here, which I think is much, much less likely, but I'm just going to put it on the chart. I have a line way down at $10,350. That would represent an 85% pullback from Bitcoin's all-time high. So in the previous bull cycles, we have had a crypto winter that followed, and both of those times, the Bitcoin pulled back about 85%. There's a bunch of brand new things happening that have never happened before. So this cycle looks a little bit different than any of the previous cycles. So however, having said that, if we were to get the full crypto winter, which would be an 85% pullback, that would be down to 10,350. So again, I'm not expecting that, but I'm showing that line. I would not at all be surprised to get to this, mid to high $15,000 number. And again, if we do, I think it will be for a very short period of time, because the only 2 other times that we went below 200-day moving average, we did not stay there for long. So if we move down, I would expect that we would touch this and then bounce off of it. Again, this is not financial advice. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just using these charts and technical analysis to look at what is likely. Okay, the last price target that I would have is this green line right here. And again, this is Bitcoin on the 1 month time frame. So this green line is the 300-week moving average. So you'll see this only dates back to April of 2016, because that was 300 weeks after Bitcoin started. So you could not have a 300-week average until you got to that point. So this is a little bit newer, but there's still 6 years of data here. We have never gone below the 300-week moving average. We have only touched it 1 time in the history of Bitcoin. So this is not a line that Bitcoin interacts with, and it is certainly not a line that Bitcoin has ever crossed. The one time we did touch this line was in March of 2020. And obviously we had a global pandemic and circumstances that were highly unusual. So that was more of a black swan type of an event. And again, this was 1 monthly candle, and you can see we pulled way back immediately from there. So even the month that we touched this 300-week moving average, by the end of that monthly candle, it closed about 67% above that line of support. So the one time that we did hit this, it was for a moment, and we had a gigantic run right after it. So if we were to bounce off of this is somewhere in the $6,600, $6,700 range. So that would be my third price point. And that should be a fairly strong price point considering Bitcoin has never gone below the 300-week moving average. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't. We've broken a bunch of these types of records so far in the last weeks and months. Most recently, we just took out the previous bull cycle's all-time high, and that was pushing 20,000. So when we broke below that, that was a first ever in the history of Bitcoin. So, here's another thing that Bitcoin's never done. Let's see if this one holds. And we may or may not test any of these, because right now what we're really doing is testing this line at 20,000, because we did candle wick below this, but we are currently back above it at the moment. We're at 20,185. So you can see I'm going to try and check in every day, because we're going to break, I think, one way or the other. And so I'd like to really see if we're going to go down and test these lines of support, or if this line holds and we have a little bit of a relief rally right now. So, and again, even if we were to have a relief rally, it is entirely possible we would go retest some of these lines of support. So I'll leave you on the 30-minute time frame. You can see we have a nice green candle going right now. So we've got some little bit of upward momentum staying above 20,000 at the moment. So that is the main thing. That is really the one thing that I will be looking for between now and tomorrow morning's equity open. And we'll have to see how the Bitcoin miners react. We're very near where we were on Friday's close. So there has not been much change in Bitcoin. So unless Bitcoin makes a major move overnight, we should be in that neighborhood. So it will be very interesting to see how the US market reacts to the fact that we did take this line out severely for a period of time over the long weekend. So that's my update on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I will definitely check back in tomorrow. So thanks so much for watching. And if you made it this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.